Suffering and letting go. Thinking about washing. People these days think too much. If they would only quieten their thinking process a little, then their lives would flow much easier. One night each week in our monastery in Thailand, the monks would forego their sleep to meditate all night in the main hall. It was part of our forest monks' tradition. It wasn't too austere, since we could always take a nap the following morning. One morning after the all-night meditation session, when we were about to go back to our huts to catch up on our sleep, the abbot beckoned a junior Australian-born monk. To the monk's dismay, the abbot gave him a huge pile of robes to wash, ordering him to do it immediately. It was our tradition to look after the abbot by washing his robes and doing other little services for him. This was an enormous pile of washing. Moreover, all washing had to be done in the traditional way of the forest monks. Water had to be hauled from a well, a big fire made, and the water boiled. A log from a jackfruit tree would be pared into chips with a monastery's machete. The chips would be added to the boiling water to release their sap, which would act as the detergent. Then each robe would be placed singly in a long wooden trough, the brown boiling water poured over, and the robe would be pounded by hand until it was clean. The monk then had to dry the robes in the sun, turning them from time to time to ensure that the natural dye did not streak. To wash even one robe was a long and burdensome process. To wash such a large number of robes would take many hours. The young monk was tired from not sleeping all night. I felt sorry for him. I went over to the washing shed to give him a hand. When I got there, he was swearing and cursing, more in Brisbane tradition than Buddhist tradition. He was complaining how unfair and cruel it was. Couldn't that abbot have waited until tomorrow? Didn't he realise that I haven't slept all night? I didn't become a monk for this. That was not precisely what he said, but this is all that is printable. When this occurred, I had been a monk for several years. I understood what he was experiencing and knew the way out of his problem. I told him, thinking about it is much harder than doing it. He fell silent and stared at me. After a few moments of silence, he quietly went back to work, and I went off for a sleep. Later that day, he came to see me to say thank you for helping with the washing. It was so true, he discovered, that thinking about it was the hardest part. When he stopped complaining and just did the washing, there was no problem at all. The hardest part of anything in life is thinking about it. A moving experience. I learned the priceless lesson that the hardest part of anything in life is thinking about it in my early years as a monk in northeast Thailand. Ajahn was constructing his monastery's new ceremonial hall, and many of us monks were helping with the work. Ajahn used to test us out by saying that a monk would work hard all day for just 1 or 2 Pepsis, which was much cheaper for the monastery than hiring labourers from town. Often I thought of starting a trade union for junior monks. The ceremonial hall was constructed on a monk-made hill. There was much earth remaining from the mound. So Ajahn called us monks together and told us that he wanted the remaining earth moved around to the back. For the next 3 days, working from 10 a.m. until well past dark, we shovelled and wheelbarrowed that great amount of earth to the very place that Ajahn wanted. I was happy to see it finished. The following day, Ajahn left to visit another monastery for a few days. After he left, the deputy abbot called us monks together and told us that the earth was in the wrong place and had to be moved. I was annoyed, yet I managed to subdue my complaining mind as we all laboured hard for another 3 days in the tropical heat. Just after we had finished moving the heap of earth for the second time, Ajahn returned. He called us monks together and said, "Why did you move the earth there? I told you it was to go in that other spot. Move it back there." I was angry. I was livid. I was ropeable. Can't those senior monks decide among themselves first? Buddhism is supposed to be an organised religion, but this monastery is so disorganised it can't even organise where to put some dirt. They can't do this to me. 3 more long, tiring days loomed ahead of me. I was cursing in English, so the Thai monks wouldn't understand me as I pushed the laden wheelbarrow. This was beyond the pale. When would this stop? I began to notice that the angrier I was, the heavier the wheelbarrow felt. One of my fellow monks saw me grumbling, came over and told me, "Your trouble is that you think too much." He was so right. As soon as I stopped whinging and whining, the wheelbarrow felt much lighter to push. I learned my lesson. Thinking about moving the earth was the hardest part. Moving it was easy. To this day, I suspect that Ajahn Chah and his deputy abbot planned it as it happened from the very start. Poor me, lucky them. Life as a very junior monk in Thailand seemed so unfair. The senior monks received the best food, sat on the softest cushions, and never had to push wheelbarrows, whereas my one meal of the day was disgusting. I had to sit for long hours in ceremonies on the hard concrete floor, which was lumpy as well because the villagers were hopeless at laying concrete, and sometimes I had to labour very hard. Poor me, lucky them. I spent long, unpleasant hours justifying my complaints to myself. The senior monks were probably so enlightened that delicious food would be wasted on them. Therefore I should get the best food. The senior monks had been sitting cross-legged on hard floors for years and were used to it. Therefore I should get the big soft cushions. Moreover, the senior monks were all fat anyway from eating the best food, so had natural upholstery on their posteriors. The senior monks just told us junior monks